Good evening, everyone. It's great to be back and welcome to the inaugural session of our new talk series, Life Through the Eyes of Achievers. Since the time I've announced this series, a lot of you have been asking whether we are discontinuing our other talk show, which is Leadership Spotlight series. So the answer is no. That is going to continue like the way it's always been, just that there we talk to senior industry leaders about leadership and a variety of other professional, contemporary topics. While in this one, we're going to be talking about life. Doesn't that sound interesting? And to make it more interesting, we're going to be talking to achievers, people who've seen the ups and downs of life, but more importantly, have learned immensely through what life has taught them. And those learnings have earned them the title of achievers. So it's not a title that has been given by an organization or a company or a boss, but a title which they have earned from their resilience, perseverance, and the never say die attitude. So, what does it take to be an achiever? Let's understand this from our very two special guests and my very dear friends who exemplify the word achievers in all possible ways. So, please join me in welcoming Debjani and Sahil. Hello, guys. Debjani, you're on
Well,
mute.
hi Shivani, hi
Good
Debjani.
evening. Good evening, dear friends.
Good evening, and it's so great to have you both in one frame. And for the audience, while Positive Vibes is hosting this session, but let me tell you the credit for the title, for this wonderful title, Life from the Eyes of Achievers, goes to Devjani, and the format of this session, which has been co-curated by all three of us, especially Sahil's inputs into it. So it's like a conglomeration of ideas, brilliant ideas from these two powerhouses of talent, which is why they are achievers in all spheres of life, in the literal sense. So thanks a bunch, guys. Love the name, and I hope the audience will love the format of this session. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure's entirely ours.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Now,
I'm just gonna say
you're very
ditto.
kind. You're being very kind. But normally I start off with introducing my guests, but this time I'm not going to do it. This time I'd like you both to talk about your journey in your own words. So, Sahil, starting with you, tell us how's your journey been. You've had a stellar career and you've risen really well in your career. You've had many awards and accolades in your kitty. I'm sure this would have been a roller coaster of a ride. So, how was this ride for you? We'd like to hear it from you.
So Shivani, with your permission, I always like to believe ladies first. I have
You
learned.
want to break the cliche.
No, no, no.
Sorry, you want to
It's not
break the
the
cliche
cliche. It's
here.
not the cliche. It's see what happens is when Devjani starts off, she does 0 to 100 in 6 seconds, and that really puts the pressure on, right? So let one achiever talk to the other. So Devjani, I'd love to you for you to go first, and I'll love to follow suit.
Trust Sahil to put you in a spot. Just,
Absolutely.
just when I was about to relax, saying for once, Shivani's got the question directed at the other quarter. He just had to spring this one on me. Sahil, I'll take you up on this some other time in my personal space. Okay? But nevertheless, don't want to derail the program. So I think thank you. And I'm not going to do a 0 to 6 in whatever 100, whatever he said. But then it has been a remarkable life. It has been a remarkable 52 years. I'm 52 today, out of which 26 has been spent in the corporate, trying to be a corporate personality. The rest of all of 52 has been spent playing different roles, starting with an only child and a daughter who was actually brought up not as a daughter, but just, somebody who was neutral enough to play all roles in the family. So I was the banker, the investor, the custodian, the counselor to my parents. A lot of responsibilities pretty much early on in life, which actually told me that life is not that simple. Even if you were just a single child, it was not always take, take, and take. There was a lot of give and take. in order to make every relationship meaningful. Um, After that came a lot of studying, curriculum, loads of it. I am actually an academic at heart, despite those many years in the corporate. So I loved studying. And honestly speaking, my career in the corporate was by default, not by design, because there were two things which were sort of earmarked for me. One was either I would go into the bureaucracy through the civil services, which was what my family wanted, or I would get into an academic mold. So these were the two most preferred options that my family and every other person who had the goodwill of mine used to profess. Um, Again, as they say, man proposes, God disposes. Happened in true spirit in my case. Both of them fell by the roadside, and here I was wearing the third hat, which was that of a corporate person. um, did not regret it. I think the way I've lived those 26 years in the corporate, I missed nothing. And I probably today would not exchange it for anything else. Okay. So even if it started by default, by design, I made it into quite a remarkable journey. um, was very happy to finally give up that 24 by 7 corporate life in 2019. um, Plenty of decisions went into it. I think as I said, I spent almost half a lifetime running after pursuits which were not incrementally my very own. They were not coming from the heart, but they had been there. It was like the golden trap. I'm not going to shy away from saying that, because when you're right at the height of the ladder, when you're at the board, when you're talking different strategies, when you're running around with the hoi polloi, when you're calling shots, one day in Dubai, next day in Mauritius, launching telecom services in a place like Seychelles where people go for honeymoons. So different kinds of experiences in different shapes. So why wouldn't you enjoy it? But then finally, there came a time which I started realizing that it was indeed a golden trap. You had to either break it and walk out, or because you couldn't really be stepping into two boats and doing justice to either.
Yeah.
My daughter had pretty much grown up with an absentee mother at home. She knew very well that I was a workaholic, I was a careerist. But then there comes a point when, as a friend to friend, I mean, when a daughter is 19 years of age, she actually looks at you in the eye and says, "Mom, can I have a little bit more of your time? Because there are important issues I need to get under the belt with you around." So I think that was a clarion call. And that was the time when I said to myself, okay, I've run the race. I've done what needed to be done. I've got my accolades. I've got all the awards, plaques, and every other medals that I could have asked for. And just because I had a husband at home, a compatriot who asked for nothing and supported me through and through, I shouldn't have taken him for granted so much. So I think those were the two very important concepts which drove me into this thing where, amidst a lot of insecurities, because when you're in a chair, it's the chair that people talk to, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily you. And you realize that when you actually get out of the chair.
Absolutely.
So it takes a lot for you to get used to the fact that I need to reinvent myself in a manner where the people on the other side don't necessarily revere or respect me because of a chair, but because of who I am. So that was a struggle which started almost nearly in 2017, allowed me to get over that mountain cliff by 2019. And here I am in 2021. I would say a lot more at peace, because I don't crave that spot anymore. I have a lot of dear, good friends, family who I'm surrounded with. I'm doing some meaningful work in the space that I'd like to do, doing a few things I always wanted to do, like get a PhD for myself. I want to wear that black hat and be a doctor someday, a doctor of literature. Uh, and then finally, there must be something good out there. Not looking at a life of 100, but looking at a life of almost 75 and not beyond. I think it'll be okay by the time I get there. Now, if that
Awesome.
Sahil calls is 0 to 6 in 100 or whatever he said, then that's my part.
0 to 100 in 6 seconds.
Okay, I got that formation wrong.
Now let's wait for Sahil to go from 0 to 200 in 3 seconds. I trust
And
you
he'll
for
do
that,
it.
Sahil.
And he'll do it.
He'll do it.
Well, this is what you call performance pressure, guys.
Of course. What did you think? I mean, why do we have you here? Performance
That's
pressure.
exactly where woman power is playing out. I can see it. I can see it, Shivani. You need to be biased, not gender biased. Okay, anyways. Ladies and gentlemen who's sitting out there and listening in, you can just imagine 52 years of experience, and on this side, 25 years on this planet. The amount of experience that Debjani had, I may not have had that many experiences, but I'm sure my experiences have been equally rich. A lot of things in common with Debjani, only child. Of course, the same passion of wearing the black hat, maybe not as literature, but more as psychology and management and doing a PhD someday. I don't know when it's going to happen, but inshallah, it should happen soon. I think something that is fundamentally different, that has really defined my life, is that till today, I choose to call myself as a confused sperm. Every moment is like a crossroads between the head and the heart. And therefore, there is this dilemma that every morning I get up with thinking, of course, Devjani has said she doesn't want to get out. She's been there, done that, no more wising for the corporate chair. And maybe that's something that I'm still struggling with because I'm thinking, do I really want to eye for that position right up there? And what it takes to get there, do I want to walk that journey or not? Because if that journey is something different from who you are in your daily life or your basic DNA, you're going to always be at loggerheads between your head and your heart because your head is going to tell you, be that corporate bitch. Be that person who really goes there and does a CYA. We all know what a CYA is. But your heart tells you, you know what? The other person sitting right there is as human as you are. Why do you really want to go that extent of pushing that person on the wall to the wall just to ensure that you can move ahead? And those are the dilemmas that even today, while Shivani called me achiever, I think I'll be very honest to be vulnerable and say that I still struggle with those dilemmas even today. I think Devjani spoke about honeymoon at Seychelles. I think, what really gets me to places is the curiosity and the desire to figure out the unknown. And that has really helped me. Devjani, welcome back. I think that has really got me to get to places, be it different roles, be it exploring different opportunities, be it being open to newer experiences. And that, if I really go back to where I started, has added to the richness of my exposure. And that is 25 in front of you. You just heard 52, and that's 25. So, Shivani, back to you.
Thank you, Sahil. And, so we have 25 and we have 52, and we have a soon to be 40 in between. So that sort of completes the equation, if we were to say. And honestly, I didn't know this, guys. This is quite a coincidence that I also happen to be the only child and the only daughter.
Ah,
And
To that I say
there you
hallelujah.
go.
Hallelujah.
hallelujah, absolutely. And I can so well relate to what Devjani you said. And again, being a corporate junkie, always, I come from a family of bureaucrats and people who've been in the government, sector all through. So I was sort of like the black sheep at some point in time that I wanted to opt for the private sector. And I had really started dreaming of a good high flying corporate life, and touchwood, thankfully got to work for a good 15-16 years in very good corporates. But yes, then Devjani spoke about this golden trap, and that is so true. The golden trap. And Sahil, you spoke about the heart, the crossroad. And I think after 15 years I came on that crossroad, that what is it that I really want to do. But let me tell you, completely agree, with what Devjani said, that once you get out of that chair, that's when you actually, realize that you have to make a whole lot of effort to reinvent yourself. Because yes,
Yes.
people do talk to the chair. And so it's been an exhilarating experience. Of course, being an entrepreneur, everybody knows it's not easy. I'm not going to be repeating what, we normally say. But at the end of the day, what I like is that both of you, Devjani, you spoke about a very powerful word called at peace. I think that's what matters in life eventually. If you're at peace with whatever you're doing, And Sahil, you spoke about, 25 years. Amazing. I mean, in 25 years, you've had such a stellar career, which a lot of people aspire for. And I'm not saying it because, I don't have to call you an achiever. You are an achiever. At 25, you're at a very senior position in one of the big fours of the country. It's no small achievement. So, yes, so that brings me to the second question, guys. What is the DNA of an achiever? When we talk about achievements, often, people see the tip of the iceberg, which is success, recognition, awards, accolades, senior position. But underneath, there's a whole lot that goes on, which people don't know about. So, what are those hidden experiences that a person undergoes to reach that zenith or reach that peace of mind? What myriad of emotions or experiences did you have in your journey? And I'll now ask Sahil to answer this question first. Which probably the world does not know about the struggles, the fears, and the dilemmas.
So let me honor your request. Yeah. So
I'm
Shivani,
humbled.
I think if we can actually go ahead and make this slightly more, colloquial, right? तो थोड़ा हिंदी में बात करते हैं, थोड़ी वो
चलिए,
भावनाएं ज़्यादा निकलती हैं.
बिल्कुल.
And then Devjani can get us into the Urdu space as well with her shero shairi and her poetry. But to start off with, those expressions are worth a million. But before, let's get to it, right? I think ये जो DNA VNA होता है ना, ये सब अंग्रेजी होता है. It's a DNA of an achiever. और उसमें देखो वो बात है. It's all larger than life.
Yeah. चलो
I
जज्बा बोलते हैं
fundamentally
इसको. Let's
believe.
call let's call it a Hindi word of जज्बा. क्या जज्बा है एक अचीवर का?
This sounds familiar. The previous show that we had, absolutely, it
Yeah.
sounds familiar. Okay, so I'm thinking that Shivani is some DNA, whatever is all jazz. The bottom line is, जो इंसान ठोकर खाता है ना, उसी को ही समझ में आता है कि what it takes to get up again. Because otherwise, when the going is good, everyone's going, right?
Yeah.
Then जब कहते हैं ना, जब दिशा अच्छी है, planets अच्छे हैं, आप अच्छा काम भी कर रहे हो, and everything is nice and hunky dory, you don't realize what it is to build resilience.
Yeah.
And when resilience becomes a way of life, then you will realize that every time you fall, you actually rise a lot higher. And in that process of rising a lot higher, in typical management jargon, you're building competencies. And in the process of building those competencies, you're building muscle power. और फिर क्या हो जाता है ना, फिर वो एक आदत सी बन जाती है. क्योंकि क्या हो जाता है कि चलो यार, आज गिर गए, no worries, tomorrow is a new day. We'll get up better, we'll rise higher, we'll take the bar even more higher. But the challenge that comes and plagues many of us, and I'm sure Debjani will share her story, Shivani, you would have many such stories, and all our viewers would have so many life experiences. Absolutely. That at the end of the day, what fundamentally differentiates, and if I may use this word very colloquially, an achiever versus a non-achiever is just the ability to react and respond.
Awesome.
And this is not taught in any textbook. This is not available on Google. And this is absolutely contextual to your ecosystem and your core values of being.
Absolutely.
I think if that people can be in touch with, कि मैं कौन हूं, मैं कैसा हूं, और इस सिचुएशन में सबसे ज्यादा, going back to what Devjani said, peace कहां मिलेगा? Let's say very clearly, right? Let's 2-3 metrics. What is important for me? If peace is important for me, I will never pick up a conflict. Or I will give in even if I'm right.
Yeah.
If power or authority is important for me, I will use that rather than using influence. If love is important for me, I'll say, ठीक है यार, शिवानी ने मेरे को अपने शो पे नहीं बुलाया, कोई बात नहीं. देवजानी को बुलाया ना, कोई बात नहीं. देवजानी और शिवानी एक अच्छा सा शो कर लो, मुझे बुरा नहीं लगा. As long as I know that I have a lot of love and affection for positive vibes, I have a lot of love and affection for the concept, for the idea, and for what you guys are doing together. I think मोटा मोटा ये बहुत सिंपल है. हम उसको थोड़ा सा ज्यादा ही ओवर कॉम्प्लिकेट करते हैं.
हाँ, कंफ्यूज कर देते हैं उस बीच में.
लेकिन ये
हाँ
इजी
जी.
नहीं है साहिल, ये हमें पता है कि वी हैव टू बी इन, जिसको हम सेल्फ अवेयरनेस बोलते हैं, कि आई इफ आई नो हु आई एम एंड हाउ व्हाट मैटर्स टू मी, fundamentally, when you are in a situation, it becomes a little difficult to accept it. I'm sure that's a case with a lot of people. So how does the one work on that self awareness, wo resilience jo banana, that the resilience part that you said, how does one start that?
So Shivani, you touched on a very important point, right? Why is it difficult? It is difficult only because there is a conflict within us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless we are not able to, one, understand that conflict, and two, resolve that conflict,
Yeah.
our interactions with everybody will be very confusing. Because we will go out there and we'll say, अरे यार आज मेरे को ये डेटा दे दो, ये बहुत urgent है. शाम को हम बोलेंगे, अरे यार बट तूने वो 2 दिन पहले दिया था, तूने वो काम नहीं किया. So even in our behaviors and our mannerism and our interaction, what we are really doing is somewhere we don't have clarity
Yeah.
in what we want from ourselves and what we want from people. And
Yeah.
therefore, what we do is we really send the universe very confusing signals. And that conflict within gets manifested in the conflict externally as well. So I'm not saying I'm a Baba sitting here giving gyan, but all I'm trying to say is, as long as we are able to understand कि अंदर ही केमिकल लोचा है,
हाँ,
उसको फिक्स नहीं करेंगे
Exactly.
तो बाहर जाके तो आपका सल्फेट, कैल्शियम सल्फेट, ये वो मिक्स करके आपके वेपर्स ही निकलेंगे ना.
बिल्कुल. Absolutely. Devjani, what do you have to say to this? The
नहीं
DNA.
भाई, नहीं भाई, देखो साहिल बाबा ने जब बोल दिया तो मतलब बोल दिया. बस मेरे लिए उसके साथ बस एक ही बात करनी है. Exactly what he said. The locus of control needs to be within you. सीधी सी बात. जब तक आप अपने अंदर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंड कंफ्यूजन को पनपने देंगे, आई होप माय हिंदी इज ओके साहिल.
बहुत बढ़िया.
That is Shivani is the judge because I'm equally bad. So
No man, being a bong, my link pulling thrilling is still very ori. Okay, so disclaimer before anything else. जब तक आप उसको पनपने देंगे, आप वहीं पर by default गिरते रहेंगे. ठीक है. Now the point is, गिर रहे हैं because you don't have an option, या गिर रहे हैं because आपको कुछ करना नहीं है उसके बारे में. See, there are different kinds of people on this earth. I've met people who are very happy in a very casual way of what's happening in their life. ठीक है, कोई उद्देश्य नहीं है, कोई intent नहीं है. I'm not saying that everybody on this earth has to have a kind of a focus like Arjun when he actually struck that bow into the eye of the fish. That's not possible for everybody. But at the end of the day, कुछ तो मायने होगा अपनी life की. There must be something that you are charting out for yourself. And in that charting of the course, as Sahil very clearly said, you will fall, you will rise, but you will use every fall as the next step towards success. You will not treat that fall as something ki main gir gayi, oh my God, where do I go from here? But you will use that fall to say, what am I going to take as learnings out of this? ताकि अगली बार गिरे तो इस मुद्दे पे ना गिरे, शायद कोई नई गिरावट आ जाए, कुछ और होगा. Okay, कुछ और मुद्दा होगा. But as long as the locus of control, आपकी चिंताधारा, आपकी दिशा अपनी कंट्रोल में हो, and you're not springing and jumping on everybody's opinion and everybody who's giving you gyan all around you, I think you are one good DNA sitting in your body. You've got one good system working within a certain process. Okay, it is important because your thought process is also a process, except that it is ruled by the head and heart. It is ruled by a lot of emotions. It comes with a lot of grays, not just blacks and whites, and you've got to deal with it. And that's where our intellect, our ability to deal with that level of ambiguity, all of that becomes very, very important. So आप अगर अचीवर की बात करेंगे, अचीवर का मतलब ये नहीं है कि जन्म होने के बाद से ही उसको सारे प्रश्न के जवाब है. They don't have answers to every question. But while they move on the path or on their journey, they rediscover themselves plenty of times. They create answers, they innovate processes, and therefore they reach a junction which probably is the less trodden path. कुछ नया,
Absolutely.
कुछ नई अंदाज, कुछ नया चीज जिसको लोग पसंद करेंगे. That's what you are offering to the rest of the world. That's what to me is the true value of an achiever. Not just what you gained as an individual, but what did you leave behind as a legacy for the next person in the row.
Absolutely. I think, first of all, on the Hindi, 100 out of 100, Devjani, I did not find any bong errors into that. It's a completely 100%, good Hindi. Now, I completely, I'm taken back by one point that you just said, which is around, achievers are not the people who are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They're not people who have like answers to everything. I think a true achiever is someone who's actually had a fall and but has had the ability to rise and not
Yeah.
just wallow or wallow, whatever you call it, in self pity. I think a lot of people, because of the experiences that life throws on us, sometimes we tend to have a victim mindset, and that is something probably which holds us from rising. And I've seen brilliant people falling in that victim mindset. And so to your point, जो एक locus of control है वो आपके अंदर ही है. You decide whether you want to be the victim or you decide whether you want to be the fighter, and you
बहुत सीधी
rise.
सी बात है. बहुत सीधी सी बात है.
It is completely up to me. And a lot of people I've also seen in my experience, I mentor a lot of youngsters. Now, one of the things that drives them is their perception of how the world thinks about them. That's very, very important. The social pressure, the peer pressure. Again, I would say that's something that really pulls down a brilliant person also. When you are more concerned about what other people think about me vis-a-vis what I want to do, that is where I think a lot of us just fail to reach the potential. And I'm saying that because I've also been in that category at one point in time when I just started my career, coming from a small town, going into in a very premier B school, and then working in a metro. I also was in that sort of a pressure of there should be a certain kind of a perception around me. But eventually I realized that it really doesn't matter what people think about you, because people will think, they'll have to say things in any case. आप अच्छा करें, आप बुरा करें, लोग आपके बारे में बात करेंगे. So at the end of the day, do what you want to do. So I completely agree with that locus of control being inside you. So brilliant point there. Now, with this comes एक rejection की हम अगर बात करते हैं, बहुत लोग rejection face करते हैं, बहुत लोग failure से deal करते हैं. What's your advice to people who fall into this trap of rejection again and again? मैंने interview दिया. Today I was having a mentoring session, and somebody, the person was saying that I've appeared for 5 interviews, and I've not cleared any one of them, and now my self confidence is very low. I think I'm good for nothing. And I know that person is not someone who's not good for nothing, who is absolutely somebody who's very good, just maybe a little communication problem. That's why he is not able to communicate what he wants to say. But I've seen this. Do you people have also experienced this, that एक बार किसी की रिजेक्शन लाइफ में आती है तो वो बार बार, अगर वो एक के बाद 2 बार 3 बार होता है, तो suddenly the whole steam gets pulled out of it. तो उस केस में how does one keep up that resilience? What are your experiences? I'd like to ask both of you.
Sahil.
Right, so I think there are two parts to this question. The first part clearly is the common sense part, and the second is the psychology part, right? The common sense part is very clear that, boss, rejection is redirection. As simple as that. Okay? So you get rejected, you know कि ये नहीं चल रहा है, you keep hitting, ये दरवाजा नहीं खुल रहा है, go to another door, right? People who sit on high horses saying, Arey, I am right, everybody else is wrong, the world is wrong, will always find closed doors, right? But the ones who take it in their stride to say, maybe something is not right in me, or maybe I could have done that differently, or maybe I could have had a different conversation, they will definitely keep knocking and they will find a door. Now, the people who are slightly more intelligent, right, they give these beautiful words like saying, oh, my self-confidence is impacted, but I'm feeling so dejected, but how could that person insult me? And then there's the other group that says, Acha, तूने मेरे को गाली दी, तू सोचता है कि मैं नहीं कर सकता, चल बेटा अभी मैं करके देखो दिखाता हूं. And they wait for those opportunities and they thrive on those opportunities where people tell them you can't do it. And therefore, people who tell them you can't do it, give it to them on a platter because that's all they need to really rise above. Now, this is the common sense part of it. I'm really intrigued by what Devam Malhotra has written on the chat, right? To say, how do you inculcate the habit of quality of resilience, which is exactly what you also mentioned, Shivani. Now, let's come to the psychological aspect of this. जो इंसान के पास चारा नहीं होता है ना, people who don't have a choice, for them, all this is English. Rejection, ये वो, उनको कुछ समझ में नहीं आता. उनका क्या है, बॉस मेरे घर पे माँ बाप हैं जो बूढ़े हैं, मेरी बेटी है जो 2 साल की है, मेरी एक बहन है जिसकी शादी नहीं हुई है, जिसकी शादी मुझे अपने भाई बन के फर्ज निभा के शादी करवानी है. अभी अगर मेरे को जॉब नहीं मिली बिकॉज आई हैव लॉस्ट माई जॉब बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड, मेरे को अगले 1 महीने में जॉब नहीं मिली, जो मेरे 6 महीने के सेविंग्स हैं वो डिप्लीट हो रहे हैं, कुछ भी करके मेरे को जॉब चाहिए because I need to pay for my parents' old age and their health. I need to get my sister married, and my young daughter needs attention and vaccination and healthcare and all of that. अब ये इंसान क्या करेगा? ये एक दरवाजा नहीं 100 दरवाजे खटखटाएगा, और वो ये आके नहीं बोलेगा I felt rejected. वो ये बोलेगा my end goal is to get a job with this package so that I can take care of my family.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the sole motive of the individual. And every rejection is redirection. यहाँ नहीं तो यहाँ. ठीक है, देवजानी ने मेरे को 5 नंबर दिए, मैंने सब 5 को फोन किया, उन्होंने बहुत पोलाइटली बोल दिया हाँ कुछ नौकरी आएगी तो बुलाएंगे, चलो साहिल को फोन करेंगे, साहिल से नहीं हो शिवानी को फोन करेंगे, शिवानी नहीं रहे तो शिवानी के पॉजिटिव वाइब्स कंसल्टिंग पे 50 लोगों ने कमेंट किया है, मैं सबसे कनेक्ट करूंगा लिंक्डइन पे so that I get a job. Now that person's mindset isn't about saying, oh, Debjani just gave me 5 numbers. Debjani's phone book has 50,000 numbers. Why did she give me only 5? But I have been doing so much for Debjani for 52 years of her life. Now, just because I am 57 and I'm not getting a job, Debjani is not helping me. Oh, but Shivani is like, oh, but Sahil. No. The mindset is very different because the end goal is very clear. And that's the entire psychology aspect of it. And how resilience gets built, वो कहते हैं ना लत लग जाती है. तो एक बार लत लग गई कि भाई रुकना नहीं है, कुछ भी करो चलते रहना है, ठोकर लगी मार लगी ठीक है, हाथ पैर टूटा कोई बात नहीं, पट्टी बांध दो, आगे बढ़ो आगे बढ़ो आगे बढ़ो. तो फिर रफ्तार भरी कम हो जाए, your speed may reduce, but you don't stop.
Yeah.
Because you become unstoppable.
Absolutely. I think the key is to go on. One of the things that has worked for me, obviously that chair point that Devjani, brought in, that once you are working in the corporate and then you don the hat of an entrepreneur, बहुत rejection आती है, ठीक है, अभी भी आती है. It's not that whatever project we vie for, we get that. But what I've learned is to, differentiate or, to keep the rejection at bay, not treat it personally. Nobody is rejecting me. People are rejecting the work that I have to offer or the services that I have to offer. I think the moment we make that mental mind frame that it's the rejection is not to be taken personally. हम जब personally ले लेते हैं rejection को, तब हमारे self confidence की band बज जाती है. To put it in so many words. Sahil, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. I think so. Devjani touched upon this beautiful topic and you've emphasized it. And while you were talking, a thought came in my mind which I wanted to share. Think of it this way, right? Let's say Mr. X or Miss Y is a CHRO or CMO or CXO of any large corporate. Yeah? Whether it is premature retirement or in the 40s or 50s or whatever, they decide to hang their boots and go on to the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
What I am not able to fathom is overnight, why does value depreciate? The person is the same. The skill sets are the same. The competency is the same. All that I'm taking away from the individual is the title and the organization.
And
I'm not taking away the individual.
Yeah.
So then, if you go by an academic point of view, what's the hypothesis? The hypothesis is irrespective of the individual competency, it is the chair that is commanding everything. Because
Absolutely.
if you flip it the other way around, let's say tomorrow Shivani decides to listen, I've done corporate world for 15 years, now I want to start my own. Why does Shivani struggle? Or why does Mr. A or Miss B struggle? They should have a lovely pathway to say, listen, boss, मेरे तो connection बने हैं 15 सालों में, मैं अपनी चालू कर रही हूँ. Come, fuel my entrepreneurial dream. Fuel it and give me a lot of work. But why do entrepreneurs struggle? And why do we have so many people who go the entrepreneurial way, come
And then
back,
Then
come
come
back.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they
Lots of
come
them.
back to the corporate world?
Yeah.
Not because they want to come back, mind you,
Yeah.
but they
They're
come
forced
back
into
because
it.
it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not sustainable because घर पे पनीर तो छोड़ो, दाल रोटी नहीं होती है महीने की, क्योंकि खर्चा हो रहा है. वेबसाइट बनाया मैंने बहुत मार्केटिंग किया, मैंने अपने दोस्तों को फोन किया कि मैंने अपना कुछ चालू करा है, कम गिव मी वर्क, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. मैंने अपनी जो ड्रीम है उसको 6 महीने दे दिए, मैं ऑथर भी बन गया, मैंने बुक भी लिख लिया, बुक बेचने की कोशिश भी की, फिर भी नहीं हो रहा है. So then I need to come back to the corporate world. So this concept of an achiever, a person who is an achiever in the corporate world, suddenly becomes someone just because they have left their job, the credentials, the competence, everything goes away. I don't fathom this
True.
at all.
That's the irony of life. And
That's
I
that's the biggest dichotomy that you can face with in the lifetime of ours. And surprisingly, all of us seem to echo the same, that while we are very clear, like beautifully Sahil said, rejection is nothing but redirection. I also say, in my way, in my own words, I feel rejection is nothing but nature's own way of telling you that there are better things for you. Don't knock
absolutely,
your head.
absolutely.
It's like you're being a bull in a china shop. This road is not meant for you. Knock on some other door. So it's another very easy nature state way of telling you that there is more. Why don't you hunt for that? Okay. So the time is not for you to sit back and crib. And
Yeah.
as he very rightly again points out, how can you differentiate between a person and competence? Okay. And take everything away from that. Okay. Just because the circumstances change.
Yeah.
One of the things I have learned to do, Sahil and Shivani, is today when I mentor kids, especially top notch elite B school graduates who are entering the halls and portals of the corporate world, right from day one, they believe that a cabin is for theirs. They don't like to sit in a cubicle. They only
Yeah.
want a cabin to start with, and definitely a manager tag to follow, and a certain compensation bracket to have. My simple example is these are your critical success factors today. And this is before you've actually done the journey. Once you start on the journey and you go along, you will realize that these are the least of the critical success factors. What is important for you is to create your own brand identity. Your own brand identity has to necessarily be different from the company, the chair, and the title that you are carrying. The minute you adapt or you adopt, let's say, the company to become your own identity, you've lost the game. Because the day you choose to walk out from the corridors of the corporates, people will treat you like a piece of capital S dot 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 under your feet. Okay, and if you've got to beat those people at their own game, create your own brand. It's
Absolutely.
difficult, it's tough, but today, look at us. I'm not going to be modest when I say this, unnecessarily modest. A Sahil Nayar does not need the tag of a KPMG behind him. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. Because when he boards, and I'm speaking from experience, the first time I saw Sahil was on an aircraft, both of us going to an outside location for a conference. And I saw this gentleman when all of us were in our fineries and our suits and our Western wear, we were all decked up so that what's the impression we're creating on the other mind? Sahil walks in shorts and flippers. Okay, and the impression he gave was, take me or leave me. I don't care. I'm a brand. I'm not going to change because of you. I'm not going to change because I need to make an impression on you. That was such a superb imprint on my mind. And I had to labor within my mind to say whether it was right, whether it was wrong, whether it can be sustained, whether it's something that can be mass followed, whether it's for everybody. And finally, I came to be that no, there aren't too many Sahil Nayars.
Yeah.
You can't carry that style off. Similarly, in my own lifetime, I've done some few things which people look at me and say, "Oh God, how could you do that? How could you even bring yourself to say something like that?" But it was that moment. You don't really think so much about it. That is what also an achiever's hallmark. You don't plan for everything. You don't necessarily orchestrate everything, but you have that ability, that innate ability in you to rise up. You have the spontaneity, you have the overall ability to transform adversity into an opportunity. You are able to gauge, you have a sharp eyesight, and you're able to quickly meld in into a new generation spot, which others will take a lot of time to sink in.
Yeah.
That's also something that achievers bring to the table. So, according to me, honestly, everything that we've been talking about right now is not so much of discipline, not so much of, putting a process in place, but it's basically the person that you are. Do
Yeah.
you have those competencies? You heard Sahil say at least 2 or 3 times about honing the competencies as you go along in your journey. And it is not just about honing, you also keep applying them as you go along. You will be successful in many occasions. You will also learn by not being successful in few. But it's that learning which takes you that extra mile, which others who learn only to crib and sit back and wait for another bright day around will never get to learn.
Absolutely.
शिवानी मैं एक ही बात कहूंगा आई थिंक सो पिकिंग अ लीफ फ्रॉम व्हाट देवजानी said she touched upon a very beautiful and a very important concept of personal branding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now look at the irony of the situation. Whenever any individual invest in their personal brand and their individual brand attempts to become a larger brand than the organization brand, cannibalization happens.
Yeah. Absolutely, it does.
Now think of this, right? If there is substance and form, and substance is delivering outcomes, business outcomes, how does insecurity and ego of achievers play out to the disadvantage of not just the individual, but disadvantage of even the organization?
Organization.
And
Absolutely.
many organizations are willing to take that cut
Yeah.
Yeah.
because only when you cut, you grow.
Yeah. I was, in fact, coming to the point of personal branding because you also mentioned Devjani raised a very beautiful point about having a brand. She made a very powerful statement, and I tend to agree with it that Sahil does not need a KPMG name. He's a brand in itself. So I'd like to ask you, Sahil. There are
No,
many people
I
who
like to
aspire.
disagree there. I like to disagree in all the Devjani says. I respect all her views, but I would always say this: never ever let any achievement of yours get to your head, because you are only as good as your last match or your last conversation or
Yeah.
yesterday. And therefore, if anybody wants to sit on their laurels and think, you know what? Oh, so many promotions, so many years. Oh, this company doesn't need you. That doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Because when the carpet is pulled below your feet, you will never realize. And
Absolutely.
then when you are faced with adversity, to go out there and hunt for yourself, that is when you taste the medicine. So, therefore, in gratitude, we should always say, and I firmly believe the organization brand is always bigger than the individual brand. And no
Absolutely.
individual,
Yeah.
irrespective of even it is, the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, should ever believe that it is because of them or they don't need the organization brand. I think there, sorry, but I have a fundamental disconnect to say organization brands are always larger than individual brands.
So, Sahil, I'll clarify there. Maybe, what I said was out of this context that you're talking about. I've also, in my 26 years, always believed that organization is always the larger one. Okay. We are all parts of a larger unit, right? But when I made that statement about Sahil Nayar not requiring a KPMG, I meant it in the context of building a personal brand. Because what happens is, today, let me ask you a simple question. When you go visit so many of the institutes, when you speak to so many myriad kinds of audiences, when you look at different cohorts across different segments, what are they looking at? Are they looking at you for the organization that you work for? No. They're actually valuing the output, the intellectual capital, the personality, the congruent whole, which presents to them a takeaway in itself. That takeaway is not considerably dependent on any other identity, is what I meant. It is your own. It is your own.
Sure. So,
Okay.
Devjani, I'm entirely with you, but just to play devil's advocate, I'm feeling slightly shy here. We're doing too much of Sahil, so maybe we take the spotlight off me and we put it on Shivani. But having said
There's no
that,
spotlight here. I think what Devjani says.
no,
Sorry, I'm cutting.
I agree. So I agree with Devjani, but my fundamental point is, for a minute, take
Hmm.
away my organization from me. The same institutes that you're talking about, the same places that you're talking about, all of that, will how many of them really reach out? And we've seen that, Devjani. You and I have seen that very closely.
Yes, we have. We have. But today, I am standing at a precipice. Okay. I'm really standing at a precipice because a year back, I would have possibly completely echoed your thought. Okay. There were spaces where I found, troughs and peaks. There would be times when people would reach out to you. There would be times when, everybody else would be reached out to, but you'll be the last one to be contacted. Okay. And that also sometimes by default, and you had to have the resilience to understand what was happening. But at the same time, over the period, at least it's now almost 2+ years, 2.5 years, that I have been out of a chair. I have really been out of one of those big time organizations. I am playing the game as an advisor, a consultant, a subject matter expert, a mentor, a coach, different hats at different junctures. But I've realized that if you stick to it and if your intent is right, and what you talked about, Sahil, is the competence. If that competence is genuine and hard earned, and you've got it ingrained within you, then beyond a point, beyond a veneer, people will realize what you bring to the table. That's the time when the relationship between your organization and yourself starts sort of, playing a little bit of shadow game. Okay, there are those who will still cling on to the fact that that I was an ex CPO, SRL Diagnostics, Bentley Systems, Quony. They will write X dash 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 dash, and that's not my doing. They're writing it. Okay, and, okay, so that
Guilty.
matters to them. That matters to them. But then there
It's
are
like they
also
say ना,
those.
कौन से गन्ने से कितना भी जूस निकलता है आप निकालो
uh,
बस.
आप निकालो. There's a level playing field, भाई जो लेना है ले ले. Okay. But there are also people who just call me a learning evangelist today. And I'm very happy with that epithet. I'm very happy with it.
It's the personal branding that we are talking about here, because what okay be it KPMG, or be it a personal brand, or be it being called to the premier B schools. Devjani, you get invited to premier B schools, I get invited to premier B schools, Sahil gets invited. Point is that we get invited. One, of course, there's a pull, there's the, it's like, what's in it for me from the institute? They probably want us to come for placements or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, there is also one more very big thing, which is around the personal brand that we have created for ourselves. So that's what I want to ask as a question to both of you, because a lot of people struggle with it. I've seen people reaching out to, even people who are very actively networking, people who are actively, posting on LinkedIn, doing all that it takes, but still struggling, to make a personal brand, make a place for themselves in the place that they are working in, or in the, in the fraternity at large. So what have been your learnings? What's your advice for such people in terms
देखो
of
शिवानी, मैं
how they
आपको
can
सिंपल बात
start?
बताता हूँ. मैं आपको बहुत
क्योंकि ये
सिंपल बात
क्वेश्चन
बताता हूँ.
बहुत लोग पूछ रहे हैं कि
हाँ.
वो क्या है, वो एक गुरु मंत्र बताएं कि कैसे बनेंगे हम
यानी गुरु तो
इवेंचुअलिस्ट.
देवजानी जी हैं, तो वो नहीं बताएंगे, बट मैं आपको अपना तजुर्बा से बताता हूँ. शी इज अ लर्निंग evangelist, so she'll share some of her learnings with us. बट मैं आपको एक सिंपल सा बात बताता हूँ.
जी.
आप लिंक्डइन की एल्गोरिदम की बात करें, या आप कॉम्पिटेंस की बात करें.
Hmm.
There are some of us who like doing this. We come out there and we speak our mind. There are
Yeah.
many others who are doing brilliant work in large multinationals in the country,
Yeah.
and they don't come on any platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
True.
don't even have a
True.
LinkedIn account. They don't have a
Yeah.
Facebook account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agree.
And if you really
Yeah.
want to know what they're doing, you really need to go and find them. So,
True.
two ends of the spectrum. The other end of
Yeah.
the spectrum is with this whole LinkedIn algorithm playing out, there are people who do these very funny WhatsApp jokes and get 15,000 likes, 20,000 likes, and put up these, nice screenshots of with their name and all those things. And I also was guilty to try that out to say, "Arey, yaar, LinkedIn algorithm is picking it up. Let me see whether I also get so many likes or not." But the reality is, अगर आप substance जाके देखें, उसमें कुछ
Hmm.
substance, कुछ मुद्दे की बात है ही नहीं.
Hmm.
People who are not appreciated don't are not motivated. अरे और उस पे देखो तो 12,000 लाइक हैं लिंक्डइन पे. It's a very joke. It's a joke to the next level. Now, are you saying those guys have built personal brands? I'm not sure. I don't think I'm sure about that. But what I'm very certain about is in this new world, we are seeing things that we've never seen before. We are seeing people who create LinkedIn accounts and in 3 months have got 2 lakh followers. 3
Yeah.
months, 2 lakh followers. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
We have also seen people who don't even have an account on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
but they're doing very interesting work. And if you have a one-on-one conversation with them, at the end of that 1 hour, I can promise you, you will walk out very enriched with
Enriched.
a very different thought process, a very different way of looking at life.
Very
तो
true.
मुद्दे की बात यह है कि
Hmm.
one size doesn't fit all.
Hmm. Hmm.
गुरु दक्षिणा तभी होती है जब आप गुरु से कुछ सीखो, और सीखने के लिए you don't need to talk to CEOs.
Hmm.
Opportunities to learn happen from the moment you get out of your house and walk on
Yeah.
the road.
Absolutely.
Opportunities to
Provided you
learn
have the open
happen by
mindset
others'
to learn.
mistakes. Yeah,
Provided you have
absolutely.
the mindset to learn from people irrespective of their levels and designations
Absolutely.
and
Now, I
titles.
don't want to hog the limelight, so I'm going to hand it over to Devjani.
No, so taking a cue from exactly what Sahil said, the ability to learn, and of course,
Hmm.
Shivani, what you're saying, provided you have that mindset. Okay, one of the reasons, personally, I can say for myself, I love going out to these colleges and teaching the youngsters, and I do it across segments. So while I do it for very elite schools like Vedika School of Women Leaders, which is part of Ashoka University, I also do it for प्योर प्ले गवर्नमेंट अंडर ग्रेजुएट कॉलेजेस ओके जहां मतलब करियर काउंसलिंग की कोई भाषा नहीं है. There are potholes in the roads getting into the colleges. I went
Yeah.
to a place called Saraswati Undergraduate College in Sector 14 in Gurgaon because they wanted people like us to go and spend time with the students to actually tell them about, and they were all first generation literates. Their parents were either masons or some havaldar in some company, would not have even gone to college, most of their parents and all that. So
Hmm.
it was a task in itself, but
Hmm.
believe you me, there was a lot of learning even there. So
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I go to colleges is not because I am doing something which is good for them. That's
Hmm.
not always the paradigm. The paradigm also is in the course of the discussions, especially these vibrant young minds, the kind of eclectic views, the kind
Yeah.
of, spur of the moment remarks, the kind of things that they can envisage, their imagination is so brilliant that every time I come back from a campus, or I would have had one of these conversations with the youngsters, of today's generation, Z, V, whatever you want to call them, I'm on a high. I've had my adrenaline rush. It's almost like it's been a classroom for myself. So
Hmm.
if when I say the question of personal brand, rightly said by Sahil also, personal brand is where you can get something out of that person. It is that
Hmm.
learning which never ends. It is that ability to connect, which is not definitely sitting on some kind of an agenda. It is
Hmm.
a personal brand is when two people or more than two people can create a connect without a prejudice, without
Hmm.
any agenda, but can draw inspiration from each other on the basis of what they bring to the table. It can be a child versus an adult. It can be an
Hmm.
adult versus a geriatrician. It doesn't matter. It cuts across lines, it cuts across age, it cuts across every kind of segmentation that you can talk of. That, according to
Absolutely.
me, is your brand value.
Very true. I just like to add one point there. I also feel that personal branding, at the end of the day, authenticity helps. Don't try and be someone who you're not. And
Not.
this is what I tell a lot of youngsters, that you may like somebody, you want to be like them. It's good to idolize people, but don't start projecting yourself as that person, because you're not that person. You have a certain unique strength, a set of strengths that you have. Build your brand around that. Everybody doesn't have to be an influencer. Everybody doesn't have to be like Sahil said, 3 months, 2 lakhs followers. It's
Yeah.
bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. But if you see, authenticity helps, original content helps. Being original helps in life, not just on LinkedIn. In life, it helps. So, and being different helps. So that's something that I've experienced, that a lot of youngsters grapple with. That I'm doing all that it's taking, but is it really you who you are projecting to be? A lot of times it's not. It's the pressure. Wow, this conversation is going so well. I think I'd need another 1 hour, but I'm sure you guys will kill me, because we both are busy people here, and it's Friday evening, and we don't want to be sitting here and talking forever about these kind of things. But one question that I want to ask you both before we leave is, if there was one decision in your life that you had the option to go back and change, what would that be? Who wants to go first? Yes.
I would change nothing. I would change
Okay.
nothing. Why I say
Awesome.
this? Why I
You're
say this?
wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Plus one
Uh,
there.
Us too.
Shivani,
Plus two.
Shivani, I don't know what God had planned when I was born. Okay. But then I know this much, that whether it was His will or her will for that matter, or it was somebody else's doing, I have led a very, very enriched, exciting, colorful, very meaningful life till now, till date. I've made my share of mistakes. I've learned from them. As you rightly pointed out, I think every successful person uh, would have had their shares of rejections. I've had mine. I've had my disappointments. But I never learned the Cinderella syndrome, unfortunately, like today. I never learned to run away at the when the bell struck 12 with a broken glass sandal. Rather, I would limp around. I would stay through the night. I would probably get a lot of scars and a lot of wounds in my feet. But yet in the morning, I would again learn how to smile through it. So, what
Wow.
happens is when you choose to lead life the real way, and I remember at the start of this conversation, Sahil spoke about how confusing and sometimes, how difficult and confused we make our lives into. And that's true. I'll give you a simple example. Um, Somebody in my family is getting married, a young girl, okay? And she has specific reservations about the Hindu Sanskrit mantra, the mantra which is read out during the home, the ceremony, okay, where the girl is given off to the family of the boy. So the natural question is, am I a object that because of marriage you're giving me away? Why is it not happening from the boy's family? Because there's no difference between, we are at par, the boy and the girl. So why is it that as part of the ceremony, one of the things that is spoken is that for lifelong the groom has to take care of the bride? So she's stuck it, she's stuck at it, that the mantra which is going to be spoken in my ceremony will not have these portions. They will have to be edited out. And we are right now in a mind boggling situation trying to negotiate with the Purohit on the same thing. Okay. I remember my days in the year 2000 when I got married. I remember those days. I went into no such negotiation. I did not believe in doing a lot of things, which exactly what this girl is talking about today. Even I was quite a rebellion. I also did not believe. I was not never a feminist, but even I took fact that Kanya Dan Kyun. These questions which have become a buzzword in advertisements today was there in our minds even then. And there are rituals, believe me, Shivani, which we were supposed to be doing, which I did not do. Like आपके विदाई के time में, you're supposed to take the chawal and throw it at the back.
Yeah.
जिसे आपके parents की ऋण
खत्म हो
you're
जाता
giving up the liability. Okay, parents की ऋण कभी शोध हो सकते हैं? The two people who brought you into life, can you ever give up on that right? So I didn't
है,
do
not at
it.
all.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it at the spur of the moment. And because it was all flowing, nobody had the authority to suddenly come in between and say, "Arey, arey, usne nahi pheka." But today we've
Right.
overtly complicated life by
Yeah.
getting into a protracted tussle around the same thing. My only thing is be simple, be honest. And the point that you said, be authentic. If you have it in you, and if you have a courage, and that's the last thing I'll talk about achievers, they have a risk taking ability. They have a never say die spirit. They will just not take anything because somebody is towing it to you. जैसे साहिल ने कहा, अगर किसी ने आपको एक चेहरा दिखा दिया और बोला ये तो तुम कभी नहीं कर सकते हो, there are two ways of dealing with it. या तो तुम बैठ जाओगे और बोलोगे अरे क्या हुआ मेरे साथ ये, या तो तुम बोलोगे अच्छा मैं नहीं कर सकता तो कौन
बताता हूँ.
करेगा. अरे तू कौन करेगा, तू देख अब.
Yeah.
So that's the spirit you have to lead your life in. And then whatever mistakes are yours, whatever successes are yours, you will have the ability to own both of them. You will not blame anybody else for the same. That's my philosophy.
Very true and very inspiring. And the example that you gave of the bidai, not putting the thing. Very recently, we just finished with Shraddh, right? In the Hindu mythology, there is a Shraddh, the Pitri Paksh that you do, and I do it for my
Yes.
father because I'm the only child. I'm the only daughter. Who else is going to do it? And somebody pointed out that daughters don't do it. I said,
Mm.
I said, if I don't do it, if my mother can live with me, or we like to put it that we live with her, then why can't I do things for my father that a son can do? So I completely agree with you. वो होता है ना, लोग कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, ठीक है, लेकिन करो अपने मन की, जो सही लगे वो करो, और आगे लाइफ में जरूर बढ़ोगे. दैट हैज बीन माय फिलॉसफी. इफ यू रियली बिलीव इन व्हाट यू डू, no matter what anybody tells you, you may have well wishers, you may not have well wishers, but whatever anybody says, जो whatever you have conviction in yourself, ये कुछ तो मैं कर ही लूंगी लाइफ में. This is something that people had told me when I left a very cushy high profile job, corporate job, and people thought I'm stupid, silly, I'm getting into something that's an untrodden path. And I said, it's okay, kuch to main kar hi lungi. It's not going to be the end of the world. And there were tough times, there were times that we overcame, but वो एक होना चाहिए, एक जज्बा होना चाहिए कि ये भी आया है, this is going to also pass, but we're going to do something about it to pass. That's the more important thing. And with that, I pass the mantle on to Sahil to speak his to share his 2 cents or
Sure.
4 cents.
Great. I think so. I started off saying that, in my younger days, I was very confused, right? And maybe I'll complete the circle as we complete this conversation. What were the fallouts of being confused, right? Whenever I was confused, every time I would find an escape route.
Yeah.
कंफ्यूज हो गए, एक चीज में अटक गए, भाग लिया उससे. एक और चीज कंफ्यूज हो गए, अटक गए, भाग लिया उससे. And that escape route became a life pattern. And then I realized this is not going to help. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help people around me, my near and dear ones, and it's not going to help the entire ecosystem. Let's transpose this to achievers. In corporate India or the corporate world, we many times say, right, not taking a decision is also a decision. But many times, what we don't realize is not taking a decision may be good for you, but people around you, how does it impact them? How does it impact people who actually get frustrated because of indecisiveness? How does it impact the business? How does it impact the growth? And a lot of times, this actually is an escape route. Unless we don't plug the escape route, the mindset of saying, escape route hai na, chalo, let me not take a decision. Let me sit on it. If I sit on it, time will automatically solve the problem. Leave it to time. I think that is one fundamental thing over the last couple of months I have been consciously working on. But it may be very difficult to take a decision, but I'll take that decision. I will not just find an escape route. So I think that's
Yeah.
one thing. If I had to change, want to change, am changing, is the escape route. और चलते चलते शिवानी and देवजानी एक स्टोरी सुनाने का मन है.
हो जाए.
Ojai? Okay.
Ekdam.
So there was long, long ago, once upon a time, there was a donkey. And the donkey and the tiger were having a conversation. The donkey said, "You know what? It's so beautiful today. The sun is out and the grass looks so blue." Tiger says, "Of course, the sun is out. It looks so nice. The weather is beautiful, but the grass is green." The donkey says, "Are you mad? The grass is blue." भैंस चलती गई, दोपहर हो गई, शाम हो गई, भाई क्या करें, कुछ ना करना है. Oh, age old story. Let's go to the king of the jungle. We'll go to the lion and we'll ask the lion, is the grass green or is the grass blue? पटक मटक के दोनों चले गए लायन के पास. लायन बोले, आओ जी आओ, टाइगर भी आ गए, मंकी भी आ गए, बताओ क्या प्रॉब्लम. मंकी बताओ क्या प्रॉब्लम है. अरे, he's saying the grass is blue, he's saying the grass is green. He looks at the donkey and the monkey, whoever, and he says, you're right, the grass is blue. Here, take this award. Go and enjoy yourself for the rest of the evening. You're absolutely right. बड़ा खुश हो जाता है डोंकी वोंकी, अपना डांस वांस करते करते चला जाता है. Then the tiger tells the lion, "Lion, you're the king of the jungle. In your heart of hearts, even you know that the grass is green. Why did you prove me wrong? Why did you tell the donkey that the grass is blue?" And guess what the lion said? A lot of viewers on the chat, if you want to quickly put it down, just to make this slightly more interactive, what do you think the lion told the tiger? Devjani, Shivani, any guesses?
Still thinking. क्या बोला शेर ने?
शेर ने क्या बोला?
क्या बोला शेर
टाइगर
ने?
जिंदा है. क्या बोला टाइगर को?
Let's see if the audience has anything to comment on this. Anyone
Devjani?
wants to take a go?
No,
Devjani, any thoughts? No thoughts?
no, no.
All
Nothing
right. So
disappointing.
the lion told the tiger, "This is your punishment
Of
for
competing with the
bringing the
donkey?
donkey to me. This is your punishment for bringing the donkey to me." Why did I share this story? Many times in the corporate world or otherwise, many of us are either the donkey or the tiger or the lion. And navigation in any ecosystem or environment is extremely important for anybody to be successful. You may be very competent, you may be very intelligent, you may know your craft very well, but if you don't know how to navigate, you will face the punishment. So you may be the tiger, you may know the grass is
Excellent
green,
point.
but if you take the donkey to the lion, many times the donkey will rejoice and you will be punished. Think of this and reflect on this in your own lives, in instances that have happened with your peers, with your seniors. And the one thing I want to leave everyone with is it is extremely important to know how to navigate, because that will really help you move ahead. And at times, don't take the donkey to the lion when you know the grass is green.
Awesome. I think that sums up pretty much what we've discussed in this session, and it's a whole new perspective, about the navigation part. And in fact, that was one of the things that I wanted to, end the session with. That achievers are not only people who have achieved something on their own, but I would say people who helped others achieve. I would say other real achievers. People who've helped, who've mentored others to be achievers are the real achievers. So let's try and sometimes pull out of our own rat race of I have to do this and I have to do that, and let's start adding value to people. I think that's what a true achiever in the, in the right sense would be. Brilliant session, guys. I think we could go on, and there are lots of very, very nice comments by the audience, which is expected out of such a power packed session. I personally really enjoyed this session, this conversation with you. I wouldn't call it a session. It's a very, very nice conversation and a very candid conversation that we had. And Really, really, thank you so much for taking out time and doing this, curating this whole thing, and then doing this. It's been a pleasure to have you both here, and I look forward to more such sessions in future with both of you.
Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, I think when we did think through about what kind of a platform we could have and what are the kind of programs we can actually curate for our very lovely audience, we also didn't know that things would go so well actually. But then it's always beautiful to have Sahil on a show. Uh, he's a baba on one side and an achiever on
Absolutely.
another side, and he's a guru on the other side. So he also dons so many hats, and I personally am a great fan of his. I'm a personally a fan of his. I don't go by any other nomenclature. I don't care which what he holds in KPMG and where he is tomorrow. But I just feel good, when he's around the corner, because you will have lovely takeaways. So with that,
Absolutely.
thank you, Shivani, for having this platform. Uh, Ideas well executed is the test of it. So I think that in itself is a good story told. And thank you, Sahil. It was wonderful being with you again on the show.
Thank you, Shivani. I think thank you for getting us together, Devjani. I echo your same sentiments. It's always a pleasure being with you and sharing this space with you. और चलते चलते हम ही हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं, तुम ही तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो.
Come here.
So,
क्या बात है, क्या
भाई
बात है.
ऐसे ऐसे कारवा बनता जाएगा.
Absolutely. Amazing. Amazing. And I think a lot of people would echo with you, Debjani. I can trust Sahil for bringing the Hatke aspect in every session that I do with him. And he truly lives up to the Hatke image that he has. And Debjani, you've been so spontaneous and the powerhouse, not just of ideas, but I think the experience that you bring, it really very clearly comes out in your conversations. So thank you for adding so much value, and thanks to the audience for joining us on a Friday evening. Have a great weekend ahead, guys. So the pace is set for you. That this was the right start to the weekend, I would say. And do join us. Keep tuned. Stay tuned for more sessions like this, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe, everyone. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Good
Good night.